The mid-1990s were absolute chaos in the video game industry. Nintendo was preparing the N64, Sega was fighting for survival with the Saturn, and Sony had just entered the market with the PlayStation, changing gaming forever. But while everyone else was racing towards 3D graphics, one company looked in an entirely different direction. Instead of polygons, they believed the future was full-motion video anime with interactive storytelling CD-ROM multimedia. Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the strangest, most fascinating, and most misunderstood consoles ever created, the NEC PC-FX. This is the story of a machine that tried to outsmart the future, but completely missed where gaming was headed. Let's take a look at the PC-FX. To understand the PC-FX, we first need to understand NEC. Now today, most people don't associate NEC with gaming at all, but in the late 1980s and early 90s, NEC was actually a serious player in the Japanese console market. Not because they were a traditional game company like Nintendo or Sega, but because NEC was a massive electronics corporation. Gaming was just a really small part of their business empire. In 1987, NEC partnered with Hudson Soft to create the PC Engine, and in Japan, the PC Engine became a huge success. It was tiny, powerful, and technologically ahead of much of the competition, especially when it came to CD-ROM gaming. In fact, the CD Engine ROM system helped pioneer CD gaming years before the PlayStation. The PC Engine developed a passionate fan base thanks to its arcade-perfect shooters, incredible 2D graphics, excellent sound, and a killer library of games. But while NEC was successful in Japan, things were very different in North America. In America, the PC Engine became the TurboGrafx-16, and honestly, NEC completely fumbled the launch. The branding confused people, the marketing was weak, retail support wasn't great, and Nintendo absolutely dominated the market. Then Sega came in swinging with the Genesis, and NEC quickly got squeezed out. The TurboGrafx-16 still built a cult following, but commercially, it never became a true competitor to Nintendo or Sega in the West, and that failure would heavily influence NEC's future decisions, because by the early 1990s, the gaming industry was changing rapidly, and NEC needed a next-generation system. Development of the PC-FX began in the early 1990s, and right from the start, NEC and Hudson had a very different vision compared to Sony and Sega. In many ways, the PC-FX feels less like a traditional game console and more like a Japanese multimedia workstation. Even the name reflected this. FX reportedly stood for Future Experience, and NEC truly believed that this was the future. But there was one enormous problem. The future turned out to be polygons. By 1994, the gaming industry was undergoing a massive shift towards real-time 3D graphics. Sony understood this immediately. The original PlayStation was built specifically for 3D polygon gaming, and Sega aggressively pushed arcade-style 3D experiences with the Saturn, but NEC didn't fully commit to 3D hardware, and this decision completely doomed the PC-FX. The system didn't have a processor to make polygon graphics, so had no true 3D graphic pipeline, and no advanced texture mapping at all either. Instead, NEC believed developers could fake 3D using pre-rendered graphics, sprites, streaming video, and FMV sequences. Now, in hindsight, this sounds absolutely insane, but at the time, the industry really didn't know where gaming was headed. Sony chose it correctly, while NEC chose very wrong. Now, technically speaking, the PC-FX wasn't a weak machine, at least not on paper. The console used the 32-bit NEC V810 RISC processor running at over 21 MHz. It included 2 MB of RAM, custom Hudson graphics chips, strong sprite capabilities, impressive video decompression hardware, and excellent CD audio support. For full motion video, the PC-FX was actually very capable. Anime cutscenes looked fantastic for the era. JPEG decoding was surprisingly advanced, voice acting sounded clean, and the system handled multimedia extremely well. But then again, there was almost no real 3D support, and by late 1994, that was becoming a disaster. The actual console design was also incredibly unique. Instead of a traditional flat console, the PC-FX stood vertically like a desktop computer tower, and honestly, it looked really cool. The design reflected NEC's computer background more than a traditional console design. It actually looked like it should be on somebody's desk as a computer instead of a game console. The PC-FX launched in Japan on December 23, 1994, and right away things just didn't go well. Because only weeks earlier, Sony launched the PlayStation and Sega launched the Saturn. This was catastrophic timing. Consumers immediately saw the difference. The PlayStation looked futuristic, the Saturn looked arcade perfect, and meanwhile, the PC-FX looked strangely outdated despite being brand new. And then there was the game library, or rather, the lack of one. One of the biggest mistakes NEC made was abandoning what made the PC Engine popular in the first place. The PC Engine was known for its shooters, arcade games, platformers, action games, and fast action gameplay. But what the PC-FX library became dominated by was visual novels, dating simulators, anime adventures, and full-motion video experiences. And look, there's absolutely nothing wrong with those genres, but they appealed to a very niche audience in the mid-1990s, especially compared to what Sony and Sega was offering. Over time, the PC-FX library became increasingly niche, and today, that's actually part of its cult appeal. But back then, it absolutely destroyed the system commercially. Reception to the PC-FX was lukewarm at best. Consumers were confused by the platform. Critics questioned the lack of 3D hardware, and gamers increasingly viewed the console as outdated. Sales were weak almost immediately. Unlike Nintendo, Sega, or PlayStation, NEC wasn't willing to lose billions fighting a console war. Remember, gaming wasn't NEC's primary business. This was a side division. The console never released outside of Japan, and honestly, that was probably the right call. A heavily anime-focused multimedia console in 1995 in America, that would have been even a bigger disaster for them. Despite its failures, the PC-FX does have some fascinating games. Titles like Team Innocent, Chip Chan Kick,
Round 1 スタート
Zenki FX,
のぞみは関係ないのに。
ノリ、まだ生きていたのか。お雑がの悪いやつだ。こうなったら俺をこの手でとどめをさせてくれるわ。
Boundary Gate, and Farland Story FX. Showcase just how unusual the platform really was. And visually, some games look fantastic, especially the anime sequences. The system definitely had a unique identity. The problem was that identity appealed to a very small audience. The PC-FX wasn't trying to compete with PlayStation on its terms, it was trying to create an entirely different future for gaming, and consumers simply just didn't follow. By the late 1990s, the writing was on the wall. The PlayStation had become a global phenomenon. The Saturn was struggling but still relevant. Nintendo launched the N64, and the PC-FX, it was basically invisible. NEC officially discontinued the console in 1998. Only around 60 games were ever released, and with that, NEC exited the home console market forever. So why did NEC leave the gaming business entirely? Well, there are several reasons. First, the PC-FX failed badly. But honestly, that alone probably wouldn't have killed a dedicated gaming company. The bigger issue was this. Gaming simply wasn't NEC's main business. Unlike Nintendo or Sega, NEC made money from enterprise technology, semiconductors, networking, business infrastructure, telecommunications, basically the computer industry. Consoles were risky, expensive, and increasingly difficult to compete in. Then Sony entered the market and basically changed everything. Suddenly, gaming required massive developer relations, huge marketing budgets, advanced 3D hardware, and global software ecosystems. NEC didn't want that fight, and financially, they didn't need that fight. So instead of continuing to lose money, they just simply walked away. And honestly, from a business standpoint, it was probably a smart decision. Today, the PC-FX survives as a cult console, and retro gamers are fascinated by it for one major reason. It represents an alternate timeline for gaming, a world where full-motion video, anime, multimedia, and interactive storytelling became the center of an industry instead of 3D polygons. In a strange way, NEC actually predicted part of the future correctly. Anime and visual novels became mainstream, but NEC underestimated one critical thing. Gamers wanted real-time 3D, and once Sony delivered that experience, there was no going back. The NEC PC-FX may have failed commercially, but it remains one of the boldest and strangest experiments in gaming history, a console built around a future that never happened, and in many ways it makes the PC-FX unforgettable. Now I want to hear from you. Do you guys own one of these or have ever owned one of these? And have you ever played one or played any of the games on here? What's your experience with the PC-FX? Let me know down below, guys. And as always, I just wanted to thank everybody for watching the channel and watching these videos. There's more to come. If you dig what you saw today, don't forget to hit that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell. Also hit that hype button because that helps small channels like myself get recognized by the algorithm. Also, if you want to help support the channel, go ahead and leave a super down below or consider becoming one of my members to get some of the perks that come along with being a member. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have a great one. Peace out.
Game over, man. It's game over.